So we have the brand new setup for the new pity system for Eula and Albedo, which is going to be the first setup for 2.3. And of course, after that, we got Itto and Gorou. I want to stress this no matter what in this video. Summon for your husbandos and waifus first. After that, it's just not a super difficult game in the end game, so summon for your like, but this video is going to give you some insight on what you should be doing if you're looking for progression and help for your account. This advice is meant to help you with summoning paths going forward, so that if you're looking to help get something going down the line, it will help you for that. Some explanations might be a little bit longer, but you'll get the idea eventually. Jump into it. All right, disclaimer in this video. If you're a player after the first 6 months between the 3 characters, it doesn't matter which one you pull. Pull for the one you like and the team build you want to go for. But everyone else, there are people that are within the first 6 months that do need help on what to go for, so we're going to help out those people in this video. We're going to talk about the 3 big characters that are be coming out to Genshin, and we're going to talk about Albedo. We're going to talk about Eula, and of course, Itto and Gorou. Now, all 3 of which, of course, are amazing characters to have in your arsenal, and all 3 of which are really tough choices this time around. Now, as far as characters go, this actually I thought was going to be a really, really tough choice for people, but it actually ends up becoming a much easier choice if you think about what's going to be happening in Genshin this month, and as well as what's going to be happening in 2.4. So right now, because the new rerun banner system is out, we'll talk about Albedo and Gorou. But before I mention those 2 characters, Albedo is the character that came out right after Zhongli, and Eula is a character that happened, I think, after Hu Tao banner, I believe. Now, the thing that you have to know is there's 2 characters that got skipped. The 2 characters that got skipped are Zhao, main god Mad Lad, and Gununu. And Zhao is going to be coming out most likely during the return of the Lantern Rise Festival sometime in February. Now that kind of coincides with the time frame of 2.4, so you should all more than likely see Zhao in 2.4. And they're most likely at that point, because we're going to be returning to 2.4 and the Lantern Rise Festival around that time frame, Ganyu will most likely have a resurgence at that time as well. Because we're getting both characters at the same time, most likely, don't know for sure because I haven't looked at anything because there's no leaks. Lantern Rise Festival is just most likely going to happen in February. That's just the timing of Genshin in general. So if you are saving for either of those characters and you want one of those 2 tsunderes, make sure to save for them because that's what's coming most likely pretty soon. Beyond that though, between the 3 characters, surprisingly, my thought process is if you're in the first 6 months of Genshin Impact, the best character of Itto Gorou, Albedo, as well as Eula to go for, if Itto Gorou is a combination, is Albedo. Because if you're in the first 6 months of Genshin Impact, the funny thing is, Albedo is going to be the most optimal character to summon for. In general, the reason for that is because Albedo's artifact set, really early game, is just going to require a rainbow set of whatever you get of defense percentage main stat for both your sands as well as your headpiece. You're also going to go for defense percentage on your goblet, plume, as well as flower, which is, you know what, if you're farming artifacts really early game within the first 6 months, very easy artifacts to obtain because you actually don't need an artifact set to optimize for your Albedo. If you end up getting a Petra set, great. But once you're done with that set, then you can go farm the next domain, which will be the newest domain for the 2 new artifact sets. The other thing about this coming out is that there's going to be the new Cinnabar Spindle, which is going to be a free weapon that you can get for Albedo, which is very similar to the way getting the Serpent Spine, but of course he does use a 3-star weapon as well, which is the Harbinger of the Dawn, and he's going to have a new artifact set that's going along with him. Now, the unfortunate thing about this artifact set is if you're within the first 6 months of Genshin Impact, this is one of the worst possible artifact sets to grind out, because the artifact set actually comes along with the Ocean-Hued Clam. And these 2 artifact sets are super endgame artifact sets for people looking for different optimizations for past the first 6 months of Genshin. For both Itto and Gorou, their better sets are going to be from the Husk of Opulent Dreams. And if you're going to be maining Kokomi or some other healer build, that's where the Ocean-Hued Clam is going to come in. But neither of these new artifact sets are actually really good for players within the first 6 months, because players within the first 6 months are actually going to be farming out 2 different artifact sets. The first artifact set that a lot of people should be grinding out, of course, let me go here, is going to be the Emblem of Severed Fate set and Shimenawa sets, both of which are really powerful sets that, of course, are good for a lot of your supporting characters, and of course, the Shimenawa set being good for a lot of your main DPS characters. The other artifact set that, of course, you can grind out, which is going to be very, very good to farm early game, is going to be the Viridescent Venerer set, which, of course, boosts all elemental damage by giving yourself a shred potential so you can lower resistances of enemies. You also get a healer component along with that domain. You don't actually need to get a really good set, you just need to get a 4 set piece bonus, and that's where most of your farming is going to be Emblem domain. Now, if you are going to be farming in other domains, of course, Hydro and Cryo characters are going to be using the Cryo set, which is the Blizzard Trader set out of here, for your Ayaka or whatnot, and of course, the Heart of the Depth set for any Hydro characters you want to do, for maybe Tartaglia, etc., or even using a 2 set bonus for your Xingqiu, whatever you want to call him. And beyond that, if you wanted to farm the newest domain for damage, you would be farming a defense-oriented set. By farming a defense-oriented set, it's kind of similar to throwing your resin in a dumpster and hoping for the best overall results. The reason it's not a good set to farm if you're within the first 6 months is because it's a terrible set for everybody except for Albedo, Noelle, Itto, and Gorou. And those are the only characters it's going to be good for. And the healer set is only good for the overflow healing for certain other healers, which is good for like maybe Barbara, Chi-Chi, and you're basically saying, hey, I want to farm out my Chi-Chi at this point by farming that domain. So within the first 6 months, probably not the best place to dump up most of your resin. Even though it's Albedo's best set, he gets by perfectly fine with just a double defense set and random artifacts thrown on him without actually having to farm a specific artifact set for him. And he does great with just the random subset over stat artifacts you get out of any domain in the game. The last counterpoint of characters to summon for, if you're within the first 6 months, is Eula. If you really like Eula as a primary DPS character, and she is your character that you want to go for, know that she is a very high investment character. In fact, on my Eula, of course, I crowned her ultimate, and of course, she does take a really high amount of talents across the board for elemental skill as well as normal attack, so you're gonna have to go a full breadth of talents on her. She also is gonna take a very large amount of crit chance and crit damage artifacts out of the Tenacity of the Millet and Pale Flame domain, which many players will farm for 3-4 months trying to get the perfect artifact set, which means that you're also going to get a lot of Tenacity of the Millet pieces along the way, which are really good for your, say, Kokomi if you want to use that 4-piece Tenacity of the Millet set there. Potentially good for Official for certain offshoot builds, and good for Albedo again on his defense offshoot set, and of course good for the Chad Zhongli. So if you're within the first 6 months of Genshin trying to use Eula, she will do pretty well, but not having another character that can utilize the Tenacity of the Millet set is going to be somewhat of a problem. Fortunately, though, there is a character that just came out for brand new players named Toma, and if Toma can actually use a 2 set piece bonus of the Tenacity of the Millet set, but does not work at all with the 4 set piece bonus because his overall skill damage from the 4 set piece bonus is not triggered because the actual damage that you're dealing on the Millet set bonus is from elemental burst damage, not from elemental skill damage. The only other reason to farm the Tenacity of the Millet set is because you wanted to farm out a Tenacity of the Millet set for a 2 set bonus for your Hu Tao, and because you already had a 2 set Pyro bonus on the other side of things, so you want to get that for her. But again, pretty honest, that's a somewhat copium build, and you're basically trying to give yourself an okay artifact set for a character that you're trying to build out as one of your mains, and it doesn't really seem like the best course to go. So within the first 6 months of Genshin Impact, you can build for Eula. She is a good character, she's extremely powerful, but she's not going to be one of those characters that is going to optimize a lot of your resin. And she's not going to get a ton of your resin to the right characters, all your supporting characters, so she's probably not the one to go for within the first 6 months of Genshin. Okay? After the first 6 months of Genshin, though, after you've gotten your teams built out and a lot of your other characters built, that's where Eula starts to shine, where you can start farming offshoot sets, giving yourself the Tenacity of the Millet set for other characters to boost out other teams, etc. And that's where Eula starts to really start showing that she can be a high investment character after that point. Because all your other teams, for your reaction-based teams, for your Xiangling, for your Bennett, Xingqiu, all the other like normal core characters that you would be using for 4-star characters and 5-star talent positions, those characters can be put on the sidelines for a second team, so your second team can run a Raiden Shogun as well as Eula team. Now, regarding Arataki Itto. Now, Itto, as a character, looked incredible in his overall design as far as how he's going to play out, all his character kit, everything about him looked incredible. But one of the characters I wanted to talk about is Raiden Shogun and Itto. are very closely related. And one of the things I want to talk about, I talk about this a lot on my stream, and I didn't want to salt on one character, but I'm going to be honest. Sarah, for free-to-play players, is one of the worst characters in Genshin for fully free-to-play players. The reason being is because if you consider Sarah's overall bonus, the problem with Sarah is that Sarah with Constellation 2 or Constellation 0 is equivalent or worse than a 3-star book. Her overall kit value, again, is worse than a 3-star book. And the 3-star book in question, of course, is going to be the Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Seeker. Now, the Thrilling Tales of the Dragon Seeker boost the attack percentage of whatever character's out in the field by 48% for the next character you swap to. So for fully free to play, that's the experience. And the reason I want to go so heavily into Sarah is because what I see happening with Itto and Gorou is the same thing happening with Sarah, where it's a very highly optimized support for Geo characters. Now, Sarah gets exceptionally better at Constellation 6, where she provides a 60% electro damage bonus to Geo for electro characters, for whoever actually has the buff. Now, I don't know what Itto and Gorou are going to have, but I think that Itto and Gorou is going to have a similar combination effect. So if you're fully free to play going for Itto and Gorou, there is going to probably be a supporting capability around Gorou that's going to be reliant on constellations, because that's the track that MiHoYo seems to be going for. So what that means to me is that characters like Itto and Gorou are, if you're going to be jumping for just Itto and you want to just the Chad Mad Lad Itto, it's going to be like having Raiden Shogun overall at C0 with, let's just say you end up summoning for the 5-star weapon, get the 5-star weapon, that character. But then you also need to summon for supporting characters. Now, Gorou is a character that's gonna, Itto is gonna be a character that is gonna be reliant on having another Geo character. So if you're a player with Zhongli already on your account, Itto seems like a pretty decent option, because now you can actually pair the two together. If you don't have Zhongli in your account, well, that means you're missing out on about 40% of Geo damage reduction, or Geo damage shred, I should say. Now, the reason I say that, again, if you don't know the way the characters work, is that Geo Shred, I've mentioned this a few times in my stream today, but Geo Shred is only acquirable through 2 different sources. The first source of getting Geo Shred, or Geo Resistance Reduction, is going to be through Zhongli's Shield. Zhongli's Shield actually reduces the resistances of all elemental damage of every character in Genshin or enemy in Genshin by 20%. And the only other way of getting that resistance reduction, of course, is through the Geo Resonance. Geo Resonance, of course, will provide another 20% Geo damage reduction, Geo Shred reduction. And unless Itto and Gorou have some other way of reducing resistances or defense, there's no other way of boosting their damage besides getting raw defense, raw damage, etc. So if you're a player without Zhongli or without Albedo, it's kind of questionable at that point to summon for Itto and Gorou because you won't have a Geo Resonance on your team, because you most likely will not be using Itto and Gorou if Gorou is going to be at Constellation 0. The only other 2 options in Genshin that you could really use are the Geo Traveler to provide your entire team a 10% critical chance bonus while you're inside the dome for the Geo Traveler, which could potentially make up the difference, but the amount of sub DPS that you get on a Geo Traveler is extremely low if you look at the overall damage that Geo Traveler does put out. And if you want to compare it to Ningguang, Ningguang again is a primary damaging character that allows, it's really high field time. So using the character with, of course, Itto is going to be problematic because you have 2 characters relying on normal and charge attacks that are going to fight for field time. The last character, of course, being Noelle, and Noelle is again the same thing, where you're going to be reliant on a character that has very high field time, and she's also not the best option. So again, the only other option you're going to have is Geo Traveler. So again, if you are a free-to-play player without Albedo or without Zhongli, most likely Itto is going to be a big old skip for you if you don't have those characters, because you're not going to be able to even come close to bringing out the full potential of the character. The other thing about Gorou is that Gorou is a character reliant on more Geo characters on your team. So if you're going to be using Itto and then let's say you get a lot of constellations for Gorou, the last character that you're going to have on your team composition is going to most likely be the Geo Traveler, which means that your triple Geo team is going to be relying on those things. And if you haven't built out Geo Traveler, or you don't want to build out Geo Traveler, this seems like a really bad track to go for Itto. All right, well, that's gonna do for this video. Let me know what you guys think about summoning for Eula, Itto, Gorou, and of course, Albedo in the comment section below. What are you guys gonna do for your summons? You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.